Okay, so now coaching a student who bullied, the steps involve identifying the problem, letting the student know you've received reports. You want to make sure that you're diffusing the reporting source. So sometimes it helps to say, I've heard some reports, I've heard from some people. Sometimes the student is going to ask, oh, who told? And obviously you're going to have to say, we get lots of reports, can't tell you who reported, that's not what's important. And then you're going to move into asking questions and gathering information. It will involve applying consequences according to what your school plan is, and then generating solutions for the future and creating a plan. We do have a respect plan handout that you can use, and then a follow-up. This is a good time to kind of look at why students bully. Sometimes it's just because their behaviors have worked in the past and nobody has redirected them, and who wouldn't want that power? Sometimes they don't have more appropriate skills to influence peers, and they all want to feel important, and we all should feel important, but in appropriate ways. Sometimes they don't realize the behavior is not appropriate, and sometimes they're really striving for that importance and they're looking for personal power, and they're going about it in the wrong way. I remember when we used to first have research coming out about bullying, there was a kind of a conflict among some of the researchers. Some people said kids who bully are kids who aren't confident. Sometimes they would say it's a student who's overly confident or feel overly confident. And actually, I guess what I think is that it's some of each. So the first step in coaching a student who bullied, and this is going to be a little bit tougher than coaching a student who's been bullied because they're a little bit less willing to be sitting down with us. What I find helps me a lot is just kind of doing some small talk first, letting the student know that this is not about getting him or her into big trouble, it's about figuring out a solution. And then I do go into identifying what I have heard is the problem. And again, you want to make sure that you don't reveal who you've gotten the information from. And just let that student know what the concerns are, and then give them a chance to respond to you. Many times, as you can imagine, kids are going to be defensive, and we'll talk about that in a minute, about how you can kind of diffuse that. So after you've told the student in general, the report that you've received, then you want to ask questions and you want to gather information. Again, it's really, really important that you're curious and you don't sound like you're interrogating the student, because they're already going to feel that way. They're already going to feel either embarrassed or defensive or both. So what you want to do is say, I'd really like to hear your side of it. Can you tell me what was happening before that? Can you tell me what you were hoping would happen? I'm wondering if you were feeling really mad. I'm wondering if something happened between the two of you, or if you were trying to intimidate that person, just to keep gathering information. And again, it's okay to say, I'd kind of like to hear your side of it. I'd kind of like to hear what you were hoping or where you were coming from. One of the things to caution about is if you really know that something has happened and the student is denying it, then what you want to talk to them about is, well, this is what we've heard, this is what's been reported, and what are some things that you can do so that somebody wouldn't think that you are doing that, or what are some behaviors that you can change? And then what you want to do is you want to apply consequences, but in a very matter-of-fact, kind of like a business-like way. So you would deliver it very much like the love and logic approach. I'm sorry, but my job requires that we give kids a consequence for this kind of behavior. What you want to do is think of restorative justice, and that's where our respect plan comes in. We'll talk about that in a minute. So you want to have whatever the child has for a consequence to be putting back the respect that was taken out of the community, or putting back the safety that was taken out. A simple example is if somebody damaged something, they've got to repair it. If they ruin somebody's reputation. They're going to have to do something that is positive about that person's reputation. You want it to kind of match the kind of bullying that was happening, but you don't want it to seem terribly punitive, because you want the child to work with you. You want to have them think about this is a chance for them to restore the justice. This is their responsibility. One of the things that's very helpful is to let kids know that they have a consequence, but that consequence can be lessened or it can be shortened as they show respectful, responsible behavior. Obviously, there's a lot of challenges to coaching somebody who has bullied someone. Those challenges include the child might be very defensive, the child might lie about it, the child might get angry, the child might deny. Those are some things to be aware of. And, if a child is getting totally out of control, then obviously they need to have some help to get in control, to be ready to be able to face what the consequences are and what they need to do. But I find, again, if you're not coming at it from a very powerful kind of punitive stance, if you're working with the child to help them come up with a plan, they're less likely to be defensive. And this is a little redundant, so just take a brief moment to, again, think about changing behavior. Anybody ever asked you to change a behavior? How was it for you? How is it for a child? Sometimes these kids are like, boy, I blew it again. It's really, really hard for them to be able to face that they made a mistake. So if we can frame it like that, they can be more likely to be willing to change.